I have lots of arguments. Micromanaging.
Ethan's not out there, is he? Ethan?
Great. You know,
I don't know.
Safety on my tree seat.
They stole your chair.
No, they didn't. I didn't think so. I think
I call this the Monday, September 13th, 2021 regular school meeting of Northeast School Corporation's order. We will start with the pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will move on to item C, approval of the agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, next we have the consent agenda, which includes the regular board minutes of 8/9/21, donations, field trip requests, financial claims and reports, personnel reports, consent vote. Mrs. Fox, would you read the personnel report?
Yes. There are no certified personnel at this time. Support staff personnel recommended for employment: Vicki Summers, special education one-on-one support staff at Lincoln Elementary School, effective August 12th, 2021, with a 30 working day probation. Rebecca Corning, after-school child care support staff at Lake Village Elementary School.
Oh, it changed.
Yes,
Sorry, sorry.
Effective August 16th, 2021, 30 working day probation. Jason Collins, special education route bus driver for Morocco Elementary, South Newton bus route, effective August 24th, 2021, 60 calendar day probation. Natalie Gilbert, part-time cook at Lincoln Elementary School, effective August 25th, 2021, 30 working day probation. Cora Clemens, special education one-on-one support staff at Lincoln Elementary School, effective September 13th, 2021, 30 calendar day probation. Amanda Perkey, after-school child care support staff at Lincoln Elementary School, effective September 13th, 2021, 30 calendar day probation. Isabel Vaccarano, after-school child care support staff at Morocco Elementary School, effective September 13th, 2021, 30 calendar day probation. Kelly Jackson, special education one-on-one support staff at Lincoln Elementary School, effective September 13th, 2021, 30 calendar day probation, and will return to the salary rate when previously left employment. Sarah Burns is a part-time cook at the junior senior high school, effective September 13th, 2021, with a 30 calendar day probation. Dusty Byers, special education one-on-one support staff at Lincoln Elementary School, effective September 14th, 2021, 30 calendar day probation. Transfers, promotions, demotions, Kimberly Kovach from Special Education Support Staff at Lincoln Elementary School to Title I Support Staff at Lincoln Elementary School effective August 12, 2021. Extracurricular personnel recommended for employment, Nicole Warren as the science bowl coach at Morocco Elementary School effective the 21-22 school year. Sally Smith, spell bowl coach at Lincoln Elementary School for the 21-22 school year. Beth Kaminsky, sophomore class sponsor at the junior senior high school for the 21-22 school year. Danielle LaFoon, robotics club sponsor at Morocco Elementary School for the 21-22 school year. Cassie Vanderwall, corporation media web specialist for the 21-22 school year. Barbara Blasco, career and technical education, which is ag, IT, fax and business, department head at the junior senior high school for 21-22 school year. Robert Gonzi for fine arts, which is choir, band, art, and PE, department head at the junior senior high school for the 21-22 school year. Audrey Combs Long, language arts, which is English, language arts, foreign language, department head at the junior senior high school for the 21-22 school year. Keith Schleter, excuse me, mathematics department head at the junior senior high school for the 21-22 school year. Karen Cunningham, science department head at the junior senior high school, 21-22 school year. Samuel Zachary, social studies department head at the junior senior high school for the 21-22 school year. Anthony Gillespie for the junior high football head coach for the 21-22 football season. Christopher Bonikowski for the junior high football assistant coach for the 21-22 football season. Mike Atwood for the varsity head baseball coach for the 21-22 baseball season. Doug Belt for the varsity baseball assistant coach, 21-22 baseball season. Eric Jones for the JV baseball coach for the 21-22 baseball season. Chloe Vanderwall is the 8th grade volleyball coach for the 21-22 volleyball season. Jennifer Cody for student council sponsor at Lake Village Elementary School for the 21-22 school year. Alyssa Hines for robotics club sponsor at Lake Village Elementary School for the 21-22 school year. Joshua Sporer for the basketball boys coach at Lake Village Elementary School, 21-22 boys elementary basketball season. Brianna Williams for the girls basketball coach at Lake Village Elementary School for the 21-22 girls elementary basketball season. Jessica Legetzi for the volleyball coach at Lake Village Elementary School for the 21-22 volleyball season. Lindsay Shapaniak for the math bowl coach at Lake Village Elementary School for the 21-22 school year. Sherry Hayden, science bowl coach at Lake Village Elementary School for the 21-22 school year. Sandra Edgett for the spell bowl coach at Lake Village Elementary School for the 21-22 school year. Autumn Smolensky for the junior high cheerleading sponsor for the 21-22 cheerleading season. Resignations, retirements, terminations, non-renewals of personnel as a matter of record. Janice Waddell from the bus barn as the special education route bus driver for South Newton bus route, effective August 14th, 2021, deceased. Rebecca Mazur, Morocco Elementary School is the robotics club sponsor, effective August 23rd, 2021, resignation. Vicki Summers from Lincoln Elementary School is the special education one-on-one support staff, effective August 26, 2021, resignation. Tina Parsons, junior senior high school is a full-time cook, effective August 27, 2021, resignation. And Jane Pollen from Lincoln Elementary School is the spell bowl coach, effective August 30th, 2021, resignation.
Thank you, Mrs. Fox. Okay, we've got the list of the consent agenda. We need a motion.
Move to approve.
Second,
Second?
the motion and second. Is there any discussion?
Oh, yes. I had questions on the vouchers and claims. So Buckeye Power sales, $2,975, came from the operations fund, and it's the yearly maintenance agreement for the generators at Morocco, Lincoln, and North Newton, or the high school. Harris Computer Systems, $8,169.06, came out of the education fund. It's the yearly maintenance agreement for student management system cafeteria for all schools. Hen and Sons, $32,388.97 from operations, renovations of restrooms at North Newton Junior Senior High School. For Imprint, $756.31, operations, lunch cooler bags for all the staff, and then have those gone out already, or? And then Timothy Crouch, $18,264.96 from operations, reimbursed transportation mileage for taking student to school from 4/21/20 to 3/31/21. Kendall Hunt, $1,030.88, education fund, high ability supplies for Morocco Lake Village and Lincoln. American Fidelity Assurance Company, $9,644.62. It comes from the withholding sections fund, additional life fund, and short-term disability and critical illness. Peerless Midwest Incorporated, $7,484 operation, repair of 2 water leaks at Lincoln. So not the chilled water piping, something.
No.
So
Didn't say on the invoice, but
there's 2 water leaks at Lincoln, so I'm assuming you know what they are, Mrs. Neal?
They did happen during the summer,
Okay,
and it affected, the area near the, in the teacher's lounge area, near the front of the office, back by my office, and in those areas.
okay. And then CDWG government, $4,050, operations, new cases for Chromebooks at Morocco, Lake Village, and Lincoln. And the CDWG government, $20,608. That's the common school loan, so which means that we did not pay anything for that, correct?
Correct, it's a loan, and so they take a little bit out of our tuition support each month to pay that back.
And that is for all of the interactive TVs at Morocco, Lake Village, Lincoln, and the high school. Okay, and then I had a question, last month on the vouchers, so do we have what else that was for?
yeah, well, you asked about 175,000 and I responded that it was for fencing and for the change order number.
Right, but the change order was for 152,905 is what we approved for the branch piping at
But the
Lincoln.
change order was, there was 2 components to that change order. That's what's coming around.
Okay,
There was
so
branch
what was in there together then?
There's branch piping on the second page, there was 4 things going. So that was all part of that change order.
So that's everything. So one of them, so this says 183, 152, and the voucher was for 160,007,485.
Yeah, well, that change order, when they bill it, it's all together. It's not broken out by full 5,000, it's sort of like, it's just the change order, 182, you pay 160. So the total change order was 182,000 and we paid 160. So there's still $22,000 out that hasn't been billed yet.
That they haven't finished the work on, or
Correct. Some of it is retainage and some of it haven't finished.
some of it's for what, I'm sorry?
Retainage because they withhold 5% retainage on everything. We sign off and.
And then in the fund report that we get, where are the ESSER funds showing up, the ESSER 1, 2, and 3? Which accounts are those showing up in?
7931, 7940, 79.
Because I don't see
They say
those
ESSER.
amounts. I see the ESSER 2, and I see ESSER 3.
They're all
but it's like-
reimbursable. They don't show up until you spend money and then you get the request reimbursement. They don't give you money up front.
So ESSER 3, we've only spent $6,876 so far?
Yes.
And what was that for?
It's the counselor. We hired the new elementary counselor using those funds.
Okay, and then ESSER 2, 238,8812. Have we spent all of that?
All of that, I think, like $12,000.
And then, I know in April you gave us a breakdown of that. Can we get an updated breakdown of everything that went for? Sure. I know we got like a cluster of things, but in April, you gave us a breakdown with the amounts of what it was gonna go for. So if we can get an exact breakdown, that would be great. That was all my questions I had.
Anyone else have any questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand.
I actually did have one
Oh,
really
sorry.
quick question. You're okay. In regards to some of the resignations, there was one that had to resign due to health issues. Is that, can she go for the Family Act to have time off? Not paid time off, just so that she could step away and do whatever she needs to do personally for her health and be able
For
to come back.
FMLA,
Yeah,
for FMLA, an employee has to be for at least,
okay, was that?
and then they have to work 2 weeks.
Okay, do we know, is that influence, okay, so if it's part-time, pretty much they don't qualify for that. Okay, and then.
Basically, like 1,250 hours a year.
A lot of times, even if they don't qualify, work with them too, that we've had several that don't qualify for MLA, but they Okay. still aren't here, and turn their jobs, it just depends. It just, I hate to lose somebody who wants to work, and we've not ever said, no, you don't qualify.
Okay.
It's not been our case, it's usually been. Okay. Okay.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 3, board member administrator reports.
We've had maybe Mr. Wickman, Fred Wickman is here with us. He's gonna talk a little bit about our fiber project and some news that he got last week about how.
Hello. Well, notes here.
That's going. So you recall while he's pulling that up, we filed with the state for a grant to pay for some of the fiber install that could happen between our building.
Correct. Okay, so it's been about 7 months, I think it was actually February this time, when I brought it for approval. So we requested through the E-rate program for a special construction project to build fiber between Morocco to the high school, Lake Village to the high school, and Lincoln to the high school. The winning bid for that was $1,421,085. There was a special one-time construction project, part of the federal piece of it, where they would pay a one-time construction cost such as this up to your normal discount rate. Our normal discount rate is 80%. And usually that 20% has made it so it's not really feasible for us to do, but the state has a matching grant program that does another 10%. So that was approved again this year, that program was, and then if the state matches, the federal will match the remaining 10 and make it a zero cost to the school. So that's what we applied for. We got the state approval back in May, I think early May timeframe, and we've been waiting on the federal piece. And as of last Friday, they sent out the letter saying it was fully approved. So, at no cost to us, the fiber will be installed between the buildings. Last time I talked to the company, they were estimating anywhere between a month and 3 months for construction. That can all depend on what they run into as they go between the areas. But we have to have it installed and operational. We have to use it. Do some type of data transfer on it by the 30th of June, 2022. By the money installed. I don't see that being an issue, but that's the deadline. The yearly service costs for the fiber, so like our wireless links now, we pay a monthly fee through GSAC, and they pay 80% of that fee. We're currently paying around $450 a month for that, and the fiber costs will now be $240, so we're gonna save $210 a month by going to fiber. It's gonna increase the speed between Morocco and Lake Village to the high school by 60 times, and to Lincoln 40 times. They already had a little bit more bandwidth than the other schools. the next step that, from our point of view, is we need to purchase the networking equipment, that connects to the fiber and makes it so it can talk between the buildings. That is separate from the 1.4 million. It was also part of the E-rate program, so we only have to pay 20% of it. The total for that is $25,909.12, some change there. And our total that we'll have to pay towards that is $5,181.82.
So that's the total that the school will have to pay,
Yeah.
5,000,
Yeah.
what?
$5,181.82.
And that will work between the schools, but it's not gonna correct the problem of any of the kids that live in
This
the
is
rural
purely,
areas
this is
if they're
purely,
home on
right, this is
virtual
purely,
learning.
this project is purely, to provide connectivity between the buildings. Now, that provider, as they're putting it in, has the option to do what they want, since they own it, we're just gonna lease the fiber from it. That's one of the key points that the federal government wanted, is they don't want schools in the business of maintaining fiber or after it's installed. ACO comes in, the school, they don't want the schools responsible to do that. So basically, that $240 a month is to pay for that service, making sure it's repaired, that type of thing. So that's-
Between the buildings.
Yes. Yeah, so I'll be getting the quotes that we got for the bids for the equipment, we'll get that to central office later this week. To get that ordered as soon as possible, because with everything, chip shortage is making delays for everything, so I think that might take longer to get the little bit of equipment we need in fiber installed, but we'll see how it goes. Other than that, it's exciting, so thinking of putting fiber, I think it's like, I can't quite remember, like 46 miles worth of fiber, I think, total, something around there. So, it's nice that we were able to find programs that did it so that there's no cost to the corporation, so.
Thank you for your help.
Any
We
questions?
appreciate all you've done, writing the grant,
Yeah, no
pursuing
problem.
that, kind of putting the proposal back together
Great.
this spring when you did, like the different costs.
Right. Yeah, no problem. So, all right,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Hi, I'm Kristen Higgins, principal at Lake Village, so I just want to share a little bit about what we've been up to. Sorry about my normal garb, we are a little short-staffed as we're kind of going around, but what the cool thing is that everybody just pitches in wherever they need. Our support staff are good about helping in classrooms or helping at lunch and recess. Today I was a cook, so we are just kind of like getting ourselves wherever we need to go and trying to keep our school afloat. With that being said, one of our goals at the beginning of the year was, as we were talking with our teachers on that first teacher meeting, was that our goal for ourselves and our school culture was that we wanted to have a 60-40 mentality. So 60% of our job of the first quarter was that we were forming relationships. We were going to work on being diligent in making those relationships with students and staff and people around us, and then that other 40% on our instruction, because we know that's important, but kids can't learn if they don't know that they're cared for, right? So we are making a difference there, and the teachers are coming back and saying that this has really made a difference in the start of the year. As a matter of fact, I had one of our new students come up to me, well, just today while I was cooking, she goes, "You know what, Mrs. Higgins?" She's like, "There are so many people here that know my name. I've only been here like 17 days. So like, what a cool thing to know that we are doing what we say we're doing. Another neat opportunity that we have, not as great as a grant with fiber coming through all of us, but we did get part of the grant with Sherry Cripe that some of you may remember. She is now working with Purdue and Mesa, and she is doing second steps with this anti-bullying program. So it's free to our schools, and all three of us elementary schools are being part of this. It works with our second steps curriculum we already have, but it adds on to the anti-bullying curriculum component, which is something that we have to do by October. That's something that our counselors have worked on. So between Purdue and our counselors in our schools, all of our staff is going to be trained, all of our staff is going to be trained. So teachers and our staff about how do we recognize bullying behavior and when kids are feeling singled out. So again, back to that relationship piece, we're gonna hope to have, our kids feel in a safer and more welcoming environment. So we're excited about that, and that is completely free to us to be able to do. We also, I might be stealing Mrs. Lawbaw's thunder here, but earlier, I believe it was last year, Morocco Elementary School and their teachers, they had come up with our new, character traits that we're going to be start doing, like how we normally have our characters based on our traits that we present here. And we've been doing I call them the B attributes as we're working on, they're the beaver, the beaver habits, thank you. Yep, see, I told you, you just stole it from her. See, I didn't steal it, that is the way of teachers. So,
Share.
yes, right, but it was such a great idea that we've all been doing that, and we started with our, August was Be a Legacy that they had come up with, and we read the book Emmanuel's Journey, which is so cute. If you haven't read it yet, you need to, and if you would like to, we have a couple of people on video. So our legacy for Lake Village was Miss Gretchen Davis. If you remember her, she was a wonderful, fabulous fourth grade teacher at Lake Village. And she's one of our legacies. She read that story to us. And then this month is Be Proactive. And I could not think of anybody more proactive than our own born and raised Lake Village Tiger, North Newton graduate, Ashley Churchill. So she is the one who has read Amazing Grace for us. And those will be on we have our YouTube videos where we're being sent out. And I know that Mrs. Lava has asked other people around to read some books too. So there'll be some other guest readers. But it's been really neat to see the kids engaged in literacy and in understanding their traits. So I want to thank Mrs. Lava and her teachers for coming up with that wonderful idea, because we have stolen it and it is thriving and it is wonderful. So as I said, I probably stole that from her, but I wanted to share that. It was her idea. It's great. And then finally, just part of that like educational piece, as we are educating, it's not just us educating students, but we are educating each other. And I want to thank you guys for approving our early release on Wednesdays. It's been a really great pleasure, I know, for me to kind of be in all of the schools as we've kind of done, I call it our PE tours, and that's what I say. But it's been neat to get all of the schools and talking with teachers about the same traits that we're doing. We've had Tech and Dr. Rowe come, and she talked to our schools, and we have one more. This is our next week of the tour. And then I've been talking about literacy, those 5 components of reading. We've had Mrs. Lava and Mrs. Neal do RTI and MTSS, which is working on that tier structure of how we work our interventions. And then our speech pathologist, Cassie Cox, she's been talking about executive functioning for kids and how that looks. And the feedback from teachers has already been amazing. And the feedback from our presenters of going to other schools, it's been really neat, because sometimes, as I say, like I can talk to my teachers too, but then I sound like Charlie Brown's teacher. Or if you guys are parents, you know how you tell your kid, like, oh, do this, make sure you clean your room, it's a little messy. Like, it's fine. And then somebody else comes in and they're like, your room's a little messy. Oh, it is, I better clean it up. Right? So sometimes it's nice to have just another voice, even if we're all saying the same message. And since we are all saying the same message together, some of those other ways to kind of keep ourselves growing. And we also had last week our first of the year grade level team meetings, and the teachers really enjoyed that, being able to collaborate and work together. So thank you for allowing us to have that time. I know it's not always easy for parents, but that little hour that we do have helps us grow professionally, which in turn helps grow our children educationally. So I just want to thank you for that, and that's all I have.
Well, yeah, she did steal my thunder a little bit here.
Segue.
It's just a, but it's a great way to bring literacy and the community together. And by pulling in community members with our Book of the Month, it's letting the kids see more activity in the bridge together. So that was my hope with inviting community members to be a part of that. And it makes them feel a part of us, because they are. They feed our children. They give them all the knowledge outside of us. So we're very glad that the program is thriving. And this month is Be Proactive. And I know Justin Gary is mine, because he has to be proactive in our community here in Morocco. The other thing that I just wanted to speak about real quick, we just closed our window for NWDA testing this first round. So that data should be available hopefully tomorrow, district-wide. And I'm hoping, we're seeing some decent numbers. Just by the quick glance that I've looked at, we know there's learning loss. But our teachers are doing a good job of starting to dive in and address it. So that's what we're hoping with the roadshow that Mrs. Neal and I are calling our tour with RTI, and helping teachers learn to dive a little bit deeper with the data and to pull it out and give the kids what they need. So that's where we're at with Morocco, so thank you.
Hey, Amy. You go third, and then all of a sudden you feel like you're just saying, ditto. So it's been a really, really busy start to the school year at Lincoln. If you could tell from the personnel report alone. And we do, the good news is that we do have some increased enrollment this year, which is wonderful because we always love to see more kids coming through our doors. Like we mentioned, we've been working on PD. It's been a really, really great experience, I think, for our staff, but also for us. Because you said we have the RTI, we call it a road show, and it's been a pleasure to spend time with other staff members in other buildings that I may not necessarily get to connect with on a regular basis. So that's been wonderful. We are finishing up Nubia testing, which means at Lincoln as well as the other buildings, pretty soon we'll be starting our first grade level data meetings, and we'll be starting to look at how we use that data to inform our instruction within the classroom, as well as how we can meet the needs of individual students that have some gaps and need some extra support. Talk a little bit about Title I, because that's one of the hats I wear. I'm really, really excited this year. We are implementing in the K-2 grade levels across the district, something called Integrity Phonemic Awareness. And you can go and look it up, it's HEGGERTY. It's a research-based phonemic awareness instruction. So what Kristen has been talking about, those 5 components of reading and of literacy, the very first one that we know our kids learn is phonemic awareness. And we know that a lot of our kids, our data has told us that a lot of our kids come into school having a deficit in the area of language. And part of that is that phonemic awareness. And so I'm really excited because other schools have seen a lot of really great results with using this very simple, repetitive, high repetition program to help expose kids to phonemic awareness skills that they cycle through every day. And so all students in K-2 will be experiencing this, and we're going to be tracking some data and hoping to see a huge improvement in language. And then in turn, that will be the building blocks for all of those other pieces like phonics and fluency and comprehension and all the other parts of literacy. So that's really an exciting thing for me to see that throughout the district, and we're really looking forward to seeing what kind of results we get from that. And then finally, just on a personal note, I just want to thank the staff at Lincoln, awesome administrators, and Dr. Rowe for all their support. I said I wouldn't have to do that. I am not usually emotional, but I appreciate everybody's support because I had into surgeries and treatments. And so they've been wonderful, and you need to understand what a phenomenal group of people that have here at the district.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'm done.
If I'm given time like this, I'm always gonna start with, thanking and being appreciative of everybody that's, pitching in. We've been hit pretty hard here at high school, staff, kids. It's all hands on deck every day, every minute. And everybody's been great. Teachers have a prep period each day where they can do their stuff, and we've been asking kindly if they're available, and there's been several of them that are helping cover classes. Mr. Taylor and I have spent the entire day in the cafeteria with 4 classes at a time. He's been a godsend. Jessica Sleeman has come over to help us out. There's some wonderful people that work here. There really is. The kids have been understanding, and I know I'm very grateful. So I want to make sure you know that we've got a wonderful group of people out there to take care of the kids, and they're putting in overtime and a half. So anyway, a couple things just going to mention that we try to do every day, and that is we're trying to create a normalized environment and keep learning going as we can. Last Friday, great example. Last year we wasn't able to do it, but Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Kazmierski had worked out for Sheriff Cochran to come in and speak to our junior high kids about the difficulty and negativity of vaping. It's widespread everywhere, not just in the county, it's everywhere. So being that we could bring everybody down to the gym from the 7th and 8th grade, spend 45 minutes with Mr. Cochran was wonderful. just the experience, the knowledge, being able to do something like that, it's a lot different than looking at a poster on the wall. So that was nice, we're doing some of those things. We're starting to talk about and get ready for parent-teacher conferences that will be coming up in October, where last year it was, via phone. And we're hoping to be able to remain that in person. We plan on that as of right now. So those that might be having some difficulties at the beginning of the year, we can contact those parents, we can invite them in to come in for a meeting, getting that face-to-face interaction between teacher and parent is going to be vital. Again, to get that back in, this is different from the Zoom and Google, if you ask me. So we're starting to plan for that. So it's right around the corner. Things are going as well as we can do with what we have, and we're working hard. So thank you for your support. I know you guys have done a lot of things allowing us to scramble. So thank you so much, and for being understanding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have our end of advisories coming up here in October, followed by parent-teacher conferences. The principal's kind of alluded to that. As a reminder, parent-teacher conferences are opportunities we encourage lots of parents to participate. That is a student e-learning day, so make sure we'll be sending some information about that. And October 22nd, 25th are fall break. Just so the board has an awareness of numbers of positives and students and that kind of thing. So as of this school year, we've had 11 staff members have been positive this school year. Roughly, if you divide by 11 by 188 roughly staff, that's about 5.85% of the population. And then the number of students that are positive or have tested positive since the first student day is 19. If you break it down by building, we've had 5 at Lake Village, 3 at Lincoln, none at Morocco, and 11 at the high school. So I really, as Mr. Coffin kind of alluded to, our staff have really worked hard. We continue to encourage people that are interested in subbing. Anybody want to be a sub? ESS, really use your help. And so we're very appreciative of all the teachers and staff are doing to kind of help participate and pitch in during that time. Yes.
Thank you all for your reports. Next, we have item 4, recognition. I'll go ahead and read it. Special staff recognition, Patricia McDivitt. Ms. McDivitt began in 2000 as an English teacher at the junior senior high school and continued in that capacity until May of 2021. We want to thank you for the 20 years of service and dedication to the students and staff. We wish you well on your retirement and next chapter of your life.
Then we have our clock right here. We'll make sure we get it hers.
Appreciate all the work she's done. Okay, item 5, non-action items. Public hearing on 2022 budget.
I have a short PowerPoint that explains a lot about the budget. So, first of all, when you're building a budget, it's an 18-month budget. It's the last half of this year plus next year's in this document. So you take your June 30th cash balance for each fund, you add any revenue which you're going to get in the second half of the year, plus any estimated revenue for next year, and these are usually provided by DLGF and then our own estimates based upon historic data. And then in theory, that's supposed to equal your encumbered appropriations from this is carried over from last school year, plus anything you haven't spent yet as of June 30th, plus whatever you're planning to spend next year. And that should be basically a zero cash balance now, unless you have an amount in the operating balance on Form 4B. We only have an operating balance in debt service, and that's the statutory minimums that we're allowed to have, so that in case a tax draw is late, which has happened before since I've been here, that maybe the June distributions don't happen in June, they happen in July, you still have cash to go ahead and pay your debt. payments for your principal and interest and stuff. So the state does allow you to maintain those balances for that. Now, there's just the strategic plan that the board approved a couple months ago, has a goal of a 15% cash balance in education fund. I talked about that in the plan. Again, since this document in 4B has a zero balance in theory, for us to get that 15%, that means we're only going to spend approximately 85%, 90% of what's budgeted in the education fund. And then that cash that's not spent will be our cash balance. It will be part of the next year budget when we do the cash balance plus revenue plus appropriations. So back in 2018, we had 6 different funds we've been budgeted for. And then in 19, the state did an overall, eliminated, consolidated a bunch of them. And then also, we had a school pension debt fund that we've now paid off, so that's no longer a fund or budget. The 3 funds, we have debt service, which is a needs-driven fund, which means you can only have a budget and request tax dollars for the actual principal and interest that you owe. You can't just say, I'm gonna borrow $1 million and then try to budget it at once the amortization schedules and stuff, you have to prove that you have this stuff. Education, which is, as we all know, is enrollment driven now, money's following the kid. And then operations, which is a levy driven fund, and the state actually calculates and gives you the levy amount, and that's the maximum you can raise for that fund. So we'll talk first about debt service. These are the different statutes dealing with debt service. By law, you have to have a debt service fund if you have debt. And then there's 6 different types of debt that you can use, pay, to raise money through debt service fund to pay the principal and interest. And the ones that we have, we'll talk about in a minute, but we don't have all these 6. The revenue for debt service comes from property taxes, license, excise taxes, and commercial vehicle excise tax. And this is for 2022. The estimates, property tax would be about 93%, license excise 6%, and commercial vehicle 1%. That's similar to this year and the prior year. And these are estimates. Well, the property taxes is what we need to raise to fund our debt, principal and interest that is going to be owed, and the license excise and commercial excise are estimates from the Department of Local Government Finance. The appropriations for debt service are principal and interest for lease rentals, general obligation bonds, and then commercial school loans. And then the other is trustee fees for the lease rentals. And we can, each lease rental, there's $750, maybe $1,000. So it's about $10,000 in trustee fees that we pay. So for 2022, lease rentals, there's $2.673 million. It's 92% of the appropriations for 2022. General obligation bonds, $103,000, which is 4%. Common school loans will be $110,555, another 4%. And trustee comes to $10,000. Now remember the common school loans, that's what we're using to buy that technology, the one-on-one and stuff, so it's not in the debt service. I mean, it's in the debt service, it's not in the grant. Operation fund, this was established starting in 2019. And basically, it is, it took the whole transportation operating, the old capital projects, the old school bus replacements, and then the overhead and operation expenditures from the old general fund and put them all into operations. And only these type of things can be paid out of operations, according to the statute. Our revenue sources for operations are property taxes, license excise, commercial vehicle excise, and then transfers from education fund and other could be like rebates, reimbursements, get some money for that. For instance, we got a new school recently, so that went about
sorry, Ms. Zaki, can you explain a little bit about what transfers would come out of operation? What transfers would come out of education into operations? What are those things that are funded in operations? that
Yeah, I
no
have a
longer
slide on
exist?
this.
Oh, okay, great, sorry.
Going down, when we get to appropriations, sorry. So revenue for 2022, property taxes, 3.222 million, license excise, 232,662, commercial excise, 17,459. Then transfers from education for 2022, 780,000. And right now, the only thing we're budgeting for other is $175, just as we're trying to pay cash each June. Because that can fluctuate, some years you get you don't want to build your budget on what ifs, so you want to make sure it's revenue that you're going to get for sure, so, that's the only thing we're budgeting for other right now. The transfers from education to operations, this will be the fourth year, 2022. The first year we did 1.1 million. 2020, 765,000. We increased that drastically the last half of last year. We actually brought another resolution to the board and decreased that. And then we only did 344,000 this year. We did that because of the declining enrollment. That's the only way we could fund the education budget. So we had to do that. For 2022, we're bringing that back up to 780,000 because we need that to fund operations. Now, how does that compare to other school corporations? The Forecast 5 is a company that has access to a bunch of DOE data, and they actually, I'll credit them for forwarding this to me. But this is for 2022, our transfer amounts compared to our state tuition support. So for 2020, we transferred $765,500 out of our 2020 education fund revenue was $8 million. That's 9.5%. That puts us in the 60th percentile. We were number 232 for transfers. And you can see above us all the other neighboring districts, so we transferred a lot less than other districts there.
But when we take the money out of the education fund, that is how we can pay our teachers and make sure that we have the curriculum that they need. Is that correct?
I'll get to the state tuition support. Is the support is not only the teachers, but there were things in it, general fund it was paying for, and I'll take that in a minute.
Okay, but what I'm saying, but I want to make sure that people that are here understand that when we're taking money out of the education fund, we're taking money away from how we pay our teachers and for curriculum supplies that they need to educate our children.
The state tuition support went into the general fund and included not only teachers, but it included payments for custodians, for utilities, for liability insurance. Those are now all in the operations fund. So that's why the General Assembly gave schools the opportunity the ability to transfer up to 15% of that money to operations to pay for those items.
Because it all used to be in the general.
It all used to be in
So
the
the
general
general
fund.
fund had custodians, principals, you had all those people.
They're
And
not
then in
very.
2019, it took those out and threw them over into the operations, so they're not in the education anymore. So like all that support, that student
But we
support.
also learned that when we take money from our education fund and transfer it to operations and there's a surplus, it ends up in the rainy day fund,
I
correct?
did not.
Well, you talked about at one of the meetings that we have money from operations that ends up in the rainy day fund when you make
It
transfers
did not,
into there.
it did not, I'm sure we did not do any transfers.
But when we were sitting in a meeting, I have notes that you said,
In the
when we have
past, we did.
operations fund, so
But
when
not-
we
not in-
have transferred money
not
out of the
in-
education
not
fund
in
into the
2022.
operations fund, it can end up in the rainy day fund.
Any unused appropriation ever can end up in the rainy day fund.
Okay, but it's an unused appropriation. However, we're going into contract negotiations that we just heard about. So I want to make sure that we are being sensitive to the fact of what our teachers and our staff have said, that we're not transferring too much money out of there so that we are in line with what we need to do.
Right, and we understand that too, but we also have to make the operations work, because custodians still have to be paid. And school
Bus
still would
drivers have to
pay,
pay, I mean,
bus drivers are in there, so.
and we're at number 232 out of 279 in 2022, and then for this year, if you took that amount, at 344,000, we're number 270 out of 279. We're only transferring 4% right now. So even with going up to the 780, we're gonna be less than, we're about 9%, less than 9%. So we'll still be in the 80, maybe 50 percentile.
You feel like one should be at least below 15%, so if you
So we're
go
way
back
below.
there, 15% is kind of like your stick, your yardstick.
But there's also that Form 9 that the union has been tracking about cash balance on hand, and that, well, it is at 1% overall compared to other schools.
Well, right now it's 1.1 million, wasn't it? But
Our
then,
cash balance on the
The Form 9 form that the union's been tracking all the transfers that have come out of the education fund into the operations fund.
So there was a question that was asked to the association to transfer money back into education because we were in surplus at the end of December 2021. And the reason that we would not want to do that is because we didn't do a lot of
capital
improvements.
projects, yes.
Capital projects things because we were all shut down and we didn't want to have people come in to give us quotes and that kind of thing. So there were things that we needed to do, but we kind of held off because we didn't want to have vendors in the buildings like Mulhops. Ken and Son was one for bathroom renovations at the high school, on carpet at the buildings. So we tried to keep people out, but we knew we still had that money there, we needed to spend on those things. So that's what that money was used for. It was still used for that purpose of taking care of those items that were on those improvements.
I was trying to understand this. So we take money from the education fund, which is where we pay our teachers. We transfer it into operations, which is where we also pay.
Yeah, I have a slide that'll talk about what part of operations now is from the old general fund, which is part of the state tuition support money.
Okay. And then some of the operations gets pushed to rainy day. And we have all the money
No,
in rainy
we've
day.
not done, not since like 2019, that's on transfers, been from operations to rainy day.
Okay.
There was none in 2020.
We used to do that, though, the district did do
Yeah,
that.
Okay,
several
because I've
districts
heard
do
that before. I've heard it
Yes.
transferred from operations to rainy day. So when
Well,
that's
there's two ways you
picking
can
up,
do
and I'm
it.
just wondering if that's the case, if we're trying to make sure that our teachers stay, which is a topic that we did talk about earlier tonight. You know, why are we transferring money that should be
But
allotted
the
to
money
them?
from operations was being transferred was usually capital projects that didn't get done. So we
Okay.
transferred to rainy day where we could just leave it hanging until we decided to appropriate and do something.
Okay,
But instead, what we decided to do was to go ahead and do the projects and just keep it there and hold it. But it wasn't because we had extra money that we were. The extra, it was from capital projects and projects that weren't done. Okay.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around it.
Because, somebody has projects and for some reason it just doesn't get done and or equipment's not purchased for whatever reason.
And that's where communication is saving maybe or
So in
Well, in
January,
the past it was transferred, what you could do is transfer it to rainy day and then have it for, like, we did stuff like putting the culture film on windows and stuff like that, or have a roof leak. And so all of a sudden you need a lot of money to fix a roof leak, you have money in rainy day. So that's what it's for like one-time capital type expenditures.
so it looks like when you go back, it looks like the transfer unused and unencumbered funds for budget year 2019 to the rainy day fund in the amount of $500,000 from the operations fund, and that took place in January of 2020.
It was retroactive to 12/31/19. The board approved it in January. Yeah, and it was capital project stuff that wasn't done.
Really, in the resolution, say that it has to be for those unforeseen.
Well, the rainy day resolution, there was,
Right,
yeah,
yes.
for expenditure, capital expenditure.
employees for branch piping.
We just did the branch piping, right?
Right. Which would, we wouldn't have thought that it needed to be done until they started taking things apart, and realized that, this is a concern.
I thought that was the one project that they said needed to be done years ago and was not done. And they didn't include it when we had the last meeting and talked about that.
They're gonna come here in a minute, and we're gonna talk about that.
Okay, this is the slide which talks about in the old general fund where we got state tuition support to maintain it. These were the type of things that are now in operations. Support services, general administration, that's the office of the superintendent, legal expenses, when you do board stuff with the board, board activities, central office, that is, the business office, it is, refunds to students for, fees, that's about it. Bank fees are in there. Service area direction, that's for maintenance, that's for the director of maintenance and assistant director of maintenance. Buildings and grounds, that's all the custodians, salaries for benefits, substitutes, utilities, water, sewer, telephone, internet, all the connectivity costs, telephones, et cetera, that's all there. Maintenance of grounds, fuel for mowing the grass, fertilizer, that type of thing, maintenance of equipment, that would be for anything, you have light bulbs burning out in the parking lot, it's maintenance of equipment. Security services, is another category, that we've had recently, and also in the security is, it's mainly the background checks is that category for security services. Not only do new employees have to have background checks, which now they're taken care of, but every year we have to do a certain percentage of the staff. 20% of the staff has to be checked every year on background checks. And then insurance, liability insurances and stuff. So after salaries and fringe benefits are actually our two biggest expenditures are utilities and liability insurance. Property insurance are our biggest expenditures. So those were all in the general fund, all supported by state tuition support, and now we're in operations. So that's why we have to make those transfers over to help support those things. If we did not do those transfers, we'd have to do quite a bit of cutting.
And but the solar and the wind bill offset the operations, that comes out of operations, or that comes out of the general fund?
Out of operations.
Well, yes, and as long as the wind turbine keeps going, that's, yeah.
Supposed to, but yes, but that's the fund where we're getting a substantial savings, and we're gonna hear about tonight in the operations fund.
And so they'll talk about the solar, and that's been up, it's probably been up most of August, so, we're gonna talk about that a little bit. We have not seen an impact on our NIPSCO bill yet,
Not a great impact.
not yet, so hopefully we'll hear in a couple months. NIPSCO has the agreement, that kind of thing, good for their backside.
And besides that, in operations, we have the old capital project type stuff, and building improvements, purchase of any type of mobile or fixed equipment. And we always put $20,000 aside for sports facilities, for things that may need to be done on the field. Maintenance agreements, like maintenance agreements for the elevator here, the generators, et cetera. Other facilities and acquisition and equipment, we put $100,000 aside in that category for emergency type things that come up, like leaks at Lincoln and all of a sudden, so that's where that's being paid out of. Plus there's student transportation costs and all the costs of the drivers, the French benefits, the gasoline, vehicle maintenance, supplies, et cetera. school bus replacement, purchase of buses, and then we also have a small category for, community services, which is for after-school care. We budget a little bit in case there's not enough money in that fund, so we can support that one a little bit. And then food service operations for supplies, because, the federal government, they purchase about $10,000 a year in supplies, and the hoops they have to go through now to purchase anything, it's easier to do it out of operations than food service. For instance, if they would need this, but say if they need copy paper, they buy it from one vendor, say they buy from Quill this month because it's cheaper, next month they can't buy from Quill, they have to buy from somebody else. They have to spread it around, and they have to document how they've done this, so it's just very cumbersome. So we just do that out of operations. So for the appropriations for 2022, for the overhead and operations, we're budgeting 2.4 million. For transportation, 1.06 million, bus replacement, 80,000. Capital projects, 662,000, and then other at 38,000 for other categories. The education fund, again, this was established in the year 2019, and it's for categories where it talks about student instruction and learning. And then we'll talk about it in a minute, what the categories that they kept from the general fund and education fund. So the revenue is state tuition support and other, and then basically this is it. The state tuition support is estimated at 8.6 million, and the other is 110. So state tuition support is 99% of the education budget, and it's been that way ever since 2008, when the General Assembly under Governor Daniels, they did away with property taxes as part of the general fund, and the state took it all over and raised sales taxes to pay for it. So ever since that time, it's all coming from the state. Now, the education appropriations, there's regular programs, which is instructional, CTE, ag, FFCLA, CCLA, business programs, they're all under their honors. Special programs are the special education programs and high ability. Summer school programs, obviously your summer school, both elementary, high school, and junior high. Remediation is for preventative remediation. Payments to other governmental units. What that is payments that we make to other school corporations, for instance, the Indian Trails for vocational cooperative fees, to the special ed service centers, we're a member of Wabash Valley, their service, their cost. But the biggest component is cash transfer tuition for the special ed kids from our district to go to other districts. So that money is coming out of here. So we pay Rensselaer or Casey or Tri-County or the Indiana Developmental Training Center block. That's part of, well, not that one, sorry, but the schools, that's where that's coming from. Support services students, that would be like health aides, counselors, that type of thing. Instruction would be like library, would be an example of that. Support services, general administration, office of principal, central office, even though central office is their category central office, but for us, it's all the fees we collect from the students for consumables and classes. So that's the only thing that's budgeted in that category. And then community services, that's where the sports ECA coaches are in that category. So this is how it's, the 2022 education appropriations are. Regular programs, 5.325 million, special programs, 1.2 million, summer school, 11,000, Remediation, 46,000. Payment to other governmental units, 406,000. Support services students, 433,000. Support services instruction, 490,000. Support services school administration, 925,000. Curriculum materials, 75,000. And other community services, 248,000. Now, again, this is, an appropriation is like a line of credit, so even though you may have 5.3 that, or 75 or whatever, that doesn't mean you may actually spend all that money. But if you do spend all that money or more, then you have to transfer from another area into that area, but you cannot overspend the program in the state. So summing it all up, for the property tax levies for 2022, the education fund, there's no levy because it's all state tuition support. We have to budget it for the expenditures portion, so we have authority to spend. Debt service is the needs driven. The debt levy will be 2.7 million, which is an increase of $1,120. And that's because of the common school loans we did for textbook rental. Operations is a levy-driven fund. There's a maximum levy calculated by the Department of Local Government Finance. The levy was a 4.3% statewide increase. It increased 144,000 our levy here to 3.495 million, but our property tax caps because a person can only pay up to 2% of the property value, and then anything above that is lost to the governmental units increase. So we'll actually be only getting 3.125 million for the budget, which is actually a decrease of almost $23,000 for the year. So even though the levy went up so much, we're actually gonna get less money raised for operations. And then again, the property taxes for 2022 increased by 167,000. So again, tonight is the budget hearing, so we'll take questions from people for the hearing part, and then on the next regular board meeting on 10/11 is when the budget will be adopted. That's what we've advertised by law, and has to be adopted by November 1st of this year. Okay, any questions on that?
What's the state's tuition support now per student?
That I don't know.
And there's complexity index too, so it could be different for everybody.
I don't know what the foundation
When you say different for everybody, does that mean different districts or? How do you mean by that? Foundation helps you to say that you get a complex, there's a complexity factor based on the number of students that are, for example, who are receiving TANF benefits or under foster care or also escalator that's added to that. Hopefully the tax caps make sense, but so as a homeowner, you're gonna pay no more than 1% of your home's value. So for a $150,000 house, I'm only gonna pay no more than $1,500 for my taxes. So if my taxes are $1,800, there's $300 difference. Nobody collects it and I don't pay it and nobody collects it, it's like gone. It could have been collected, but it's over that 1% threshold. So for us, as our property values increase, it's 1% for residential, 2% for rental property, and 3% on farmland. You're gonna lose, you continue to lose that money. So we could have gotten an extra $369,000, but we lose it because it's off to the caps. Just like fire department, libraries, other entities too. Which money we won't be able to collect, we can't collect that $369,000 because it's lost to the caps.
But right now, we're looking at our enrollment numbers are up from last year.
Are there any questions from the public on?
I have a quick question. So do we have a lot of money in our rainy day fund?
It's over 2 million I go right now.
Has that continually gotten higher?
No, that's about the beginning of the year.
Right now, we have $2,144,936.74 sorry, that was August.
At the beginning of January 1st, we had 2.1 million and we have 3.1 million now. So
And the fund report, we just got $2,157,369.57.
And where are we percentile on that compared to? I don't know what schools keep
I don't know if that's just.
in a rainy day
There's a
fund.
report that shows that from the state. I don't know. I don't know.
Is that considered cash on hand?
No. You mean it as far as, I mean, because the board, whenever a rainy day fund is set up by any school appropriation, they have to designate what that money's for. So it has to be for a certain thing. Now, some places, they go through the actual budget process and they'll budget it every year. We don't budget it, we just do an additional when we need to. You know, because we're only using it for one-time type expenditures because you never know if you're gonna get money for that fund. So to put any type of recurring expenditures in there can be a problem because you don't know if you're gonna have revenue to sustain it.
But you can do a reverse transfer out of there back into one of the other funds if needed.
No, what they want you to do is set up an appropriation and spend it out of there. This is what the state prefers.
And it has to, we have policy too, that talks about what.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and yeah, board could at least win that design, but.
You can't sort of look back and transfer it into a different appropriation that would go towards support staff and stuff like that. Okay. So that way you wouldn't have to transfer so much out of education into appropriations, or operations, sorry. To keep it in the education fund to go towards teachers. That makes sense. Things like that.
Well, I kind of think what she's saying is, okay, let's say that we decided we're gonna take $500 and pay you, that's gonna be your increase. Okay, we take that out of there, it doesn't get replaced, where are we gonna get that $500 next year, because you already have that set away? It's not replaceable.
But it is replaceable if we
If
have
you
extra
transfer
money
the
on
money.
capital projects that's left over, or the operations fund that's not used, it goes into the rainy day funds, because we've done transfers like that. So it can get replaced at some point, but it's not necessarily on a recurring basis,
Right.
but it can be replaced.
It's not guaranteed that it's going to be there next year.
What is a normal, like, what is a normal nest egg for a rainy day fund? That's the way my brain works, like you got a nest egg just in case something happens at home. What would be a normal nest egg
I mean, a
for?
road can cost over $2 million.
We also have bond projects that we do that we would put those in.
But the problem is, so we have to go through that process to approve a bond project,
We
and there's
could
only
do a
so
bond.
much, you can raise.
Yeah,
Right.
So,
there's a cap.
But we always have some coming off, like you tell me, then we have some coming on.
right, but you have to wait a couple of years, so right now, we just did the large project, so it's gonna be a couple more years, so we have some more debt rolling off, but there's room. And there might be room for, let's say, a $200,000, $2 million project, which could happen, but if we have a hailstorm tomorrow, and we need to put a roof on quickly, or so, or it goes above what our insurance can pay, or some other catastrophe, we need to be able to put our hands on funds to pay for those items. Because we can't wait 2 years for us to have room in our debt service. Or we've had issues with, needing to replace tanks at the village in Lincoln. Those couldn't wait, they really needed to happen, they were pretty bad. You know, we talk about the issue at Lincoln we had earlier last year with a well. well needed to have some significant work, like $36,000 worth of work, and they were out of water for 3 or 4 days, that kind of thing, that needs to be replaced and taken care of. And so if we don't have room in our regular operations account, with timing, it has to be paid for somewhere.
I mean, we have 4 older buildings, and a lot of the stuff is reaching into this useful life, but we don't know when it's gonna happen, just like at your house. You know, your well could be fine today, and then tomorrow it goes out. Or you could have a hole in your roof tomorrow, maybe you can have one today. And we have to have money to be able to make these, type of repairs, to make sure the kids stay in school, and keep employees and, students safe.
And I get that, being fiscally responsible, I don't think anybody's arguing that. I think in the past, we have stated that moving forward, being fiscally responsible with the bond projects we're doing, because there have been some projects that have been done that were not a need, they weren't a want, that some of the need projects could have been in those bond projects were fiscally responsible.
What are you specifically saying is it was a want versus a need?
And no offense to the high school, we redid the offices out there, that was
But-
not a
but wait,
need,
wait,
that
wait.
was a want, we redid the
But the
entry to
money
Lake
is-
Village twice, instead of once, we did it twice. And we also did some other projects outside at the high school, that what I'm saying from my experience and what people are telling me in the community, those are needs, they were not wants. The chilled piping at Lincoln was a definite need, and we have heard that that has been needed for a long time. So I'm saying fiscally responsible, we get it, we want to be that way, but we also want to keep our employees happy, and we want to keep the students in school, and you also do that by keeping your teachers happy. So I understand that there is a big
We
picture.
agree, but I would also say that I just respectfully disagree on the high school, because the security there was a problem. And in this day and age, you had to have those lockdowns, and you had that stuff.
I'm not opposed to lockdowns, I'm saying we absolutely redid the student services and the office. That was an expense that was not a need, you could do security without going to doing some of the other things. And we can respectfully disagree on that, but moving forward, we have talked about wanting to make sure that we're fiscally responsible so that we are taking care of our staff as well. You've sat in the classroom, you know, I mean, we want to
We
take care
agree,
of our
we want
staff
to
as
take care of
well.
the staff too, but we're trying to do a budget, there's not a lot of fat in that operations budget.
But we're also saving from doing the solar power project.
But we can't build that in yet,
Project.
because we don't know how much we're saving, and we don't know.
But we have a projected savings that we get from performance services.
Yeah,
and what
but we
we're
can't
going
build
to
a
get.
budget on projections when we have people who need to pay every 2 weeks.
When was that savings gonna kick in from solar?
Well,
Hopefully,
as soon as NIPSCO to get it all done.
I'm just, from a community standpoint, I know that if we're at that, I was in front of a lot of teachers too, not just in our district, in several districts across northwest Indiana. It's a raising point.
Okay, but I understand that, and we're not gonna negotiate, we can't negotiate here.
I
But
understand we
again,
do.
But we have a
So
proposed
even
budget,
if
so obviously
it's
there's some
not
numbers in there that we are not aware of for projections for staff because we're of a public hearing, correct? On this budget.
Well, on this
So somebody's
budget,
put projections in there, right?
on this budget, with 780,000, we're still gonna be in the 230s out of 292 schools. We're not putting excess money from education into operations for summer school. We're not doing, look at the neighboring districts, what they're putting in.
So we know we need to do
And
more
we
for our
understand
staff,
that.
all of our staff, for cooks, for bus drivers, for custodians, for everybody, for teachers, and we know we need to do that. And so we want to make sure it's sustainable too. Yeah, you know, it's a great problem to have. We have more students, which is more money, which is great. We need to keep that coming. We've been expanding consistently for the past many years.
So it's very exciting to see that going up.
Right.
And there's a lot more people moving over, moving down and moving over.
We want to be able to sustain it too. And you're right, some boards have, some of the districts given, use part of their rainy day for like one-time things, like different stipends or buyouts for teachers who are retiring, what have you, one-time things that aren't recurring. But we have to sustain it, so, giving everybody huge raises is great, we want to do that, you gotta be able to sustain it moving forward. And so that's what your current education is.
And this year with the state mandating that, we know, that there's some room. And reasonably people, he's, equally informed, will make good decisions, so.
And we know there's a target in 2 years to get people where they need to be, and that's number one on the agenda for negotiations, so we know we have to get there, so. Like I said, like she says, we don't negotiate now, but actually negotiation doesn't start until September 15th, but, anyway.
But we're having a proposed budget, so it's kind of odd that we have a proposed budget, but there aren't negotiations. So somebody's had to plug in some numbers here based on something. That's all I'm saying. It seems backwards to me.
We don't make a job where they're required to do that.
But don't you see that, it's kind of odd though?
Yeah, it is. You have a proposed budget, but you have to discuss.
So we have to kind of estimate what we think is gonna happen. And we don't know where it's gonna land, because she's got to do her budget, have it approved before we even finish negotiations, because the window doesn't close until, they have to have it, the board approved by November 15th. So, and your budget's gotta be approved before November 15th. So,
Well, before, by September 3rd, you had to have it in the CLGO website, and I mean, we don't even have enrollment counts for sure until this Friday, so, I mean, it's all.
and that's like what the whole budget process is anyway, it's your best guess of what revenue you're gonna get and what your expenses are gonna be, because you don't have a crystal ball, and you don't know exactly what your revenue is gonna be or expenses. We could be up 20, 30, 40 kids now, come February, we're down 40.
And it could go
Or maybe up.
Because they've moved away, potentially, but they could move away, and then the state starts taking money away from you right there. So they don't wait and give you any kind of leeway, they're gonna start correcting you as soon as the students move away. You get more students, you get more money, but that's kind of.
In the past, they used to have something called a negotiator, and when you lost students, you lost the 20th of that student over a 5-year period. So you totally lost that student, and now it's the second, if you're losing the second semester, you've lost that money right away. They don't have to go through it. It's hard.
So yeah, the
Look,
budget
right
is
underneath
basically.
you.
And I've been here a long time, and there's been years, a couple years where we were up quite a bit, and then the next year we were down quite a bit. So it wasn't sustained. And you have to be careful, because you don't want to have these big things where all of a sudden you're laying off or having to direct a lot of people because you thought you were going to get this for 2 years in a row, and now it's not. We're trying to keep everyone employed. And we haven't really done that.
People that are here can ask questions too.
Yeah, any other questions? If not, we can move on to the next hearing. If hopefully,
Public hearing on the capital projects plan.
yeah, this one, for the capital projects plan, this is a holdover from the old law. We had to have a capital projects plan. Now it's just a 3-year, and the only thing we have to advertise or let people know about is if we find something that's over $25,000 or over $10,000, a piece of equipment type thing, or, which is one component of it, and we have a lawn tractor for the high school of $25,000 in the plan. And then, we also have to say what projects were, over $10,000 that we're planning to do in the next 3 years. And in our plan for 2022, we're looking at flooring for all buildings at $20,000, paint, all buildings $20,000. Exterior gutters like Village 15, security upgrades, all buildings $50,000. The reason for that is because we have the Indiana Safe Secured Schools Grant, which is $50,000, so we need a match of $50,000 so we can spent $100,000 on security upgrades, window coverings, all buildings, 20,000. So that's for 2022. And then for 2023, it's a lot of the same stuff, plumbing, all buildings 100,000, flooring, all buildings 20,000, paint, all buildings 20,000, security upgrades, all buildings 50,000. Parking lot and ceiling at the high school, 45,000, and then window coverings, all buildings 20,000. And then for 2024, plumbing upgrades, all buildings 100,000. And when we say plumbing upgrades, we mean restroom renovations, basically. It's called plumbing upgrades.
We're into that twice.
Well, we have a lot of buildings that need upgrading. Their restrooms.
Toilets, or like, especially at Lincoln, there's issues with their hand washing stations outside that Tina keeps fixing, but she's only gonna fix this time, but,
Flooring 20,000, paint 20,000, all buildings, security 50,000, all buildings. Parking lot resealing and striping, all elementaries 21,000, window coverings 20,000, and then playground mulch for the elementaries 30,000. So that is the capital projects plan.
So we just did carpeting and flooring all buildings for 15,000 and window coverings.
so we have one area left at Lake Village needs to be replaced, I think it's in the IT area, the back. I could be wrong, because that's it, right?
Yeah, it's a small one.
And then there's some more at the high school, so we think we did 7 or 8 rooms last summer. We need to tick away and keep replacing carpet at the high school. Paintings, most likely at the high school.
'Cause we just did some painting recently, right?
And that is.
Where was that?
High school.
High school.
Gutters like they'll definitely be taken care of. The window coverings, along the lines, are either ripped or broken or, that's gonna be probably more than 20,000, so that's why I think she's got a couple different times there.
They're doing stages.
And if the money doesn't get used from these projects, where does it go back into? Like if we don't get all the projects or it costs less from the projections, what
Well,
fund
if
does
we
it go
don't-
back into?
If we don't do projects, then it becomes part of the cash balance when we do the next budget. Because we're not spent it, so it's gonna be sitting there. It'll be part of that cash balance to fund the next budget
In operations.
in operations.
Because these are just projections, you have no idea if it's even gonna cost that much. I understand some of it could cost more, but it might not cost that much.
So like last year, I was saying that when we didn't do, again, based on COVID, some of these things were on there, but we didn't do them because we didn't want to have people in the buildings, do estimates and things, we didn't want workers in, trying to go out, because it was all COVID. So we ended up with a cash balance because we didn't do all those things, so they still need to be done.
And that went back into the operations
And
fund.
that's why we still need to pull it from the operations.
Any other questions on capital projects?
I have a quick question. When you, if you are under budget and you have an excess of any money, are you able to put back into the education fund, or you can only pull up to 15% out of it, you can't put anything back in it?
You can, by statute, you can transfer back to education.
Okay, so let's say that like by the end of the year or halfway through the year or something like that, let's say you pulled 4% out of education and put it someplace else for a project. If you've saved it somewhere else, is there a reason we're not putting it back into the education and at the end of the year, whatever's left in that fund, giving bonus checks? Or buying a certain item for a classroom, or like using that strictly for education? Like, I understand that you can pull up to 15% out, but just because you can pull it doesn't mean it's necessary.
Well, we're only, the last 2 or 3 years, we are only pulling out what we need to spend on those expenditures that were at general fund.
Okay,
We're not pulling out excessive amounts.
but you're pulling enough to put it into a rainy day fund?
We haven't done that since 2019 now.
Okay, so that's only one school year. Like, there's over $2 million there. I'm trying to understand why,
No, not in operations right now.
no, not in operations, I'm talking about the rainy day fund.
Yes.
Like, I understand what you're saying of one-time things believe me, I know what things cost. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, if it's 3%, why put the 3% in the rainy day fund? Why not take that 3% and give it to one of the
We're
schools
not
or
putting
split
it
it?
in the rainy day fund.
But eventually it does end up there,
No.
because it came out of operations or capital projects, because that's where you moved it.
In the past, we have not done that in the last 2 years. We were doing that to build it up to, because we didn't start the rainy day fund until,
2010.
yeah, 2010. We were late, we didn't start it right away, so we wanted to build a balance so that we had something like a major work week, which we had 1 year at Lincoln in 2002.
Sure.
And we had to declare an emergency to fix the roof. Then we had money to do that without taking money from other areas and affecting other programs to do that.
Okay. And so what do you project that you'd like that cap to be on that account? I mean, I understand what you're saying,
We
that we
wanted to
can't,
get to 2 million, so we're there now, so we're happy.
okay.
So,
So anything from here forward, if it's not being touched, will be distributed out?
Then it could go back in the education fund, is that what you're asking?
That's what I'm asking. Not necessarily, I understand you can't project and give a raise because you can't project numbers. But what I don't understand is why once something at the end of the year is left in there, why, like,
because, well, part of the reason, I mean, its budget is part of it. The cash in the fund, I mean, we don't get money for operations fund until the end of it's 2 6-month periods in June and December. So we have to have cash to make those expenditures until June and December.
then why put it in the rainy day fund? Why not leave it to carry you over so that you're ahead and not
We're
behind?
leaving it in operations. We haven't transferred anything since December 31st of 19.
Okay, but so let's say if you do it in a 6-month increment, what's the reason you can't just pull 6 months worth of money out of the rainy day, put it back into there so that you're ahead and not like robbing Peter to pay Paul chasing your tail?
We're not budgeting rainy day here. We're just budgeting. I guess I don't understand your question. I mean, we're not,
Instead of being behind, like waiting for that money to come, so you're carrying money over, why wouldn't you pull a little bit of extra money out of there to cover that so that you're sitting where you need to be and not coming from behind? Like, wouldn't that leave you ahead? So that you're not waiting for that money to come?
we do have a cash balance now there. I mean, I'm trying to think of how to explain this.
Okay, start with the operations.
We're talking about operations, right?
So
Or
right
we're-
now,
Right.
so right now, the our cash balance is $897,000.
Mhm.
So that should carry us till we get our next tax draw. So we get tax draws in June and then again in December. So when people pay your property taxes, that's where we get that money from. So we keep paying like fuel, tires, custodians,
Utilities.
people, bus driver salaries, and then that keeps going down. There's nothing coming into it. It just keeps going down, going
Correct.
down. You're hoping that you end up with something left. When the taxes come in, you hope you have money. But there was one time, it was last year, you had to make a transfer because it was,
Well, yeah, at the
Those
beginning of the year,
like
because,
loans.
yeah, we were short the first 6 months of the year. Yeah, we did it.
so we
Along
used
with rainy days,
like
too.
rainy days to help carry us over, then put it back. Is that? you're asking
Okay.
kind of
Like,
it's kind of like
so-
your savings account, kind of a savings
Right,
account.
so you can pull it to put it back in operations if
It was a
necessary.
temporary loan.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so, but I guess my other question is then at the end of the year, once you've come to your balances, if there's money, let's say there's even just a small, let's say there's $2,000 left in the education fund, what happens to it?
In the education fund?
Yeah.
It stays in the education fund.
And it carries over?
Yes. Yeah, it's part of, because
Okay.
it's part of the cash balance and this budgeted for the next year.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it doesn't really, nothing really goes away at the end of the year, it just carries forward. So
The
it
cash
just.
carries forward in that fund.
Okay, so, and then if you borrow, let's say you borrow 2% from it, do you, if there's, that 2% is still sitting in operations, because let's say you just didn't ended up needing it, do you put it back into the education fund?
No, because it's already, because the budget has been set up, it's been budgeted to stay there. So it cannot, I cannot go back and transfer funds without board approval. The board has to approve any transfers.
Oh, yeah.
But it's
But we
already,
could transfer money back into the
can I
education
finish
fund.
explaining, please? But the budget is set up so that, you know, you're taking your cash balance at a certain period and you're doing your revenue, which includes these transfers, to build the budget for next year. So you have to look at your budget, what you're thinking your budget's gonna be for next year. First of all, you have to be very accurate that you didn't need the money because you don't know. You may all of a sudden have a special ed bus driver you need to buy, have a new one. I mean, there's things that come up that we don't know about at this point, so you have to have some extra money there to pay for those things. Does that make sense? So that's why, you know, when the state, they want to know, you have to put into the budget exactly what you're planning to transfer from education to operations. It has to be both in operations and revenue, and it has to be in education and the expenditure side. And they want that spelled out. Now, it's a hard cap, you can always come down less than that. So, you know, in January, say, something happens and I don't, now all of a sudden, maybe we had everyone left, you know, we lost a bunch of students and we didn't need as many personnel or whatever in operations, you could always decrease that transfer. I'm hoping that doesn't happen.
Right, no, of
Hopefully it's
course.
the other way.
Right,
But I mean, it's just a maximum that you can transfer.
okay,
Does that make sense?
yes.
Okay. Does that make sense? Any other capital project questions? Okay.
Other than if there is money left in the capital projects fund, can it go back in the education fund?
There's no capital projects. There's only an operations.
So if there's money left in the capital projects, we're getting ready to vote on. If we don't spend it all, where can we put that?
It's part of the operations.
Okay, but if we don't spend it all, I think the question is, could it go back to the education fund?
Well, in theory, it could, as long as you didn't have something else pop up like a bus driver or something.
But I'm just saying,
There may
that
be
it
something.
could.
because
Could
something
go back in
else
our
needs to
savings
die.
because the people were asking.
Or you can reduce the percent that you transfer.
Yeah.
We did that before, we cut it.
We did it last year, last fall. We had to address it. So, yeah, that can be changed. And we've done it.
We don't even get a plan.
Next is the hearing on the school bus replacement. And for 2022, what we're planning to do is to purchase one minibus for $80,000. We increased that by $10,000 from this year. Hopefully that helps. And then for 2023, we're planning to replace 2 buses, and then in 2024, 2025, 2026, 3 buses. Normally, we were doing 3 buses at a time, but then we reduced it because we had some spare fleet. And then 2022 is what you have to have for sure, 2023, 24, 25, besides what buses you may trade. That can always, this is just our plan, is, again, next year, the board would approve a new plan for 23 through 27. Any questions on school bus replacement? Okay.
Moving on to D, Performance Services Project Update Report.
we have with us some individuals from Human Services, thank you. We have Abby, Dale, it's Dale, right? Joe Clausen, Joe, yep. Yep. And Al. All right, so they did some nice, put together some information about some of the meetings, the district, and particularly the project updates as well. So we'll let Abby.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to update the board on some of our projects here. My name is Abby Ball, and I'm the Performance Assurance Administrator at Performance Services. My main responsibilities are keeping track of utility consumption of the school district, system performance, and then producing the annual report. So, as Kathy said, I'm joined here tonight with Joe Clausen, which is your project manager, and Cal Armanovich, which is the performance assurance engineer. And so, yeah. So I'm going to talk about, basically year 6 project performance of 2020, the wind turbine, and then Joe's going to talk about the pool, and Cal's going to talk about the solar project. So the top line savings, in 2020, we saved $254,000 as compared to utility expenditure in your base year.
Your base year was 2012?
2011 and 12. That was the year before the turbine. Yeah, well, turbine was, 2012, and so this would be the year prior to that. Mhm.
Can you explain a little bit what that means though, as far as the cost savings? So what does that mean? So we were.
Well, I got some slides that'll.
Okay, great.
Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, to revisit what some of these upgrades were, for the scope of work, we performed some lighting upgrades, some pump and fan adjustments. That means reducing the speed and run times of your pumps and fans. We installed CO2 sensors at some of the schools to regulate the amount of fresh air we're bringing in and conditioning. And then we swapped out some boilers for some more efficient equipment. All that was in 2015. And so then the wind turbine was installed in 2012. So the way we look at savings, we take your base year consumption and we're comparing it to now this current year, which is January to December 2020. We found that the difference between these 2 years is 677 kWh, which is a 22% reduction in electric consumption. In 2020, we saw an increase. It was 9% colder in 2020, so we normally expect your gas consumption to increase by 9%. However, it only increased by 5.6%, so that's a testament to your more efficient boilers heating those spaces. And then in 2020, your wind turbine produced 1.3 million kWh, and so that supplemented your utility bills greatly as well. Okay, on the next slide. Here's your year-over-year average kWh production. So you can see we hover between the 1.3 and 1.5 million kWh production. And so through August now, you're at 786,000 kilowatt hours. And so we feel like you're on track to trend with previous year's production, supplementing your utility consumption. Okay. And then I think this is the most poignant slide. It shows in base year, which was 2011, 2012, you've reduced your purchased utility kWh by 56%. That's substantial. So we've got those energy efficiency upgrades we made at your facilities, which lowered facility consumption by about 20%. And then you supplement on top of that your wind production kWh. And so effectively, you've reduced the amount of electricity you're buying from utility by half. Okay, and then.
Any questions on wind turbine or?
Yeah, are there any questions regarding energy consumption or production?
Even with the wind turbine being down for a little bit, you said we're still on track to.
Yeah, there are intermittent outages, it seems, from these reports we received from Harvard Partners. I know Kathy has a meeting tomorrow with the Keller Wind Group, to talk about maybe why that is and what we can collectively do to reduce the frequency of those. But it seems that production is consistent in spite of some of those outages that occur. It's what we expect to see.
Thank you.
All right, well, with that, I'll leave it to Joe to talk about the pool.
Thank you for having me join tonight to speak. So the pool project is coming along really well. Just really an update. We're into the finish phase right now with the pool project. As of last Friday, we just finished the final coat of painting on the interior side of the pool. The ceramic tile is complete on the interior side of the pool. And really, we're just waiting on the cure time of the paint, and we'll be ready to fill the pool back up this month. So the inside of the pool is going really well. Right now, we're working on the exterior. So with the gutter system complete, we're doing a new ceramic tile deck banding around the gutter system that we're starting this week. And then all the equipment in the mechanical room is complete. We finished the controls, testing on all the components with the mechanical equipment. So that is pretty much complete as of this week. So really, we're in the finishes phase, and we're targeting, so there is an LED light fixture upgrade that we are waiting on the manufacturer to get the product delivered. So right now, we're targeting the week of 9/27 for those fixtures to be delivered and start installation. And hopefully that remains true. So that's pretty much where we're at with the pool. I think the next slide is talking about the mechanical room, and I kind of hit on that already. So yeah, so all the pool mechanical, it's been installed, the controls has been complete. We're anticipating substantial completion October 1st. Potentially startup and owner training to begin the first week of October. Again, with the light fixtures, we haven't got that verified and confirmed they're coming. They are coming out of Mexico, and like anything else in this industry, it's just an issue with a small component associated with those light fixtures that they're having a problem sourcing and getting to us. Hopefully we get them in, but that startup and training, filling of the pool, is kind of contingent upon that happening, because we don't want anything dropping into the pool and causing any issues with the filtration system, things of that nature. So, you know, it's plus or minus a week. We'll be in October. We'll be doing the training, filling the pool, getting ready to turn it over. So we feel pretty good about that.
I got a question for you. When you fill the pool, what do you use to fill it with? Well water, or do you truck water in? That's a lot of water.
That's a great question. I know Facilities is undertaking that process. And I believe in talking with Casey, they're gonna use a lot of the groundwater resource that they have, to fill it.
We also contacted Morocco Town to kind of ask if they'd be willing to help with the water. And I think there's a solution we talked about today at the meeting. You want to talk about that as far as, I think you mentioned pumping it from the hydrant from the
Getting the fire
football
department
field
involved.
and
Yeah.
then loading it onto the truck and then as an exercise for the fire department and then putting it in the pool. It's gonna take several days, we say 7 or 8 days.
7 or 8
to
days
get
to
it filled.
fill it up all the way. Mm-hmm.
When does swim season start?
Our practice at the end of October, about the middle of October.
we're kind of playing a waiting game with the lights because we're replacing the lights, so we have the opportunity for the pool to be empty and improvements to be made in there. But they've got to put up their scaffolding. But so you've got to time the filling of the pool with them working around the outside of the pool, so concerns about things potentially dropping into the pool and, so hopefully the lights come on time, otherwise we have to fill and do the lights afterwards, we have a solution for that as well.
Yeah. So if we have another delay in the light fixtures coming up, I mean, we're gonna have to fill the pool just to turn it over, so swim season, so we can give it back to the swim team. If that happens, depending on, I guess, the length of a potential delay, if it's a couple days, I think it's okay. If it ends up pushing out another couple of weeks, we may just go ahead and fill the pool, and then at the time we're ready to do the light fixture work, we would cover the pool with almost like a solar cover as it's full, to protect any debris that would potentially come down into the pool. Small screws that may not be found and rust and cause discoloration to a finished product, or any, that could get sucked into the filtration system and cause problems. So we would protect the pool at that point if we did it after the fact. So, risk management, I guess you could call it. But other than the light fixtures, we're doing really well schedule-wise with the pool. One thing that we're doing everything we possibly can to get the fixtures here as quick as we can. We've got a lot of good connections in the industry, light fixture industry with Lithonia, different distributors, and I mean, it's just rest assured we're doing everything we can.
Yeah, so I was a little confused because this was the inside of my segment. But I wanted to talk to you and show you that month over month KWH production on the wind turbine. You can see relatively, while some months are windier than others, generation largely remains the same or consistent at least. And so this was a visual to accompany my.
That's okay. Any questions on that? Want to go to the next slide, just to make sure we're in good shape here? Okay. All right. Cal, we'll talk about our solar.
So yeah, my name is Cal, I'm a performance assurance engineer. My job is to just keep an eye on the solar production for all the sites. So as far as the solar project update goes, we have great news to share. Everything is running as expected. And as of August 13th, everything is online for this house, so all good news. We did call NIPSCO and confirm that each site is on the net metering rate. And I know you guys had questions about that. What's that?
I had talked to him last week about that.
Yeah, so we're gonna keep a close eye on that to make sure that, we're getting what we expect and you guys are receiving that credit. So I'll make sure we keep a close eye on that. We also had an opportunity last week, or a couple weeks ago now, to kind of educate the North Newton staff on the solar panels, how to troubleshoot them, how to just understand the system in general, and also training on how to monitor the performance of those solar panels. So there's different softwares that were provided. One of them being Also Energy, and you can see in this graph down here, just a little cool snapshot of Also Energy that shows the production of 3 different days. As you can see, as the sun comes up, the graph goes up, as the sun goes back down, or as the sun goes back down, the graph goes back down. So what we expect from a sunny day. So like I said, everything's been producing as we expect. And as of Wednesday, this is when we provided this slide deck. The panels have produced about 146,000 kilowatt hours of energy. So, and just to give, I know that might be like an arbitrary number, just to put that in perspective. And that's just in 6 weeks. So the solar panels have been up for 6 weeks, but just put that in perspective, that can power 13 homes for an entire year. So just in 6 weeks, that's how much power it's produced, which I think is pretty incredible. And I actually just did check before this meeting, it's produced another 20,000 kilowatt hours since, last Wednesday, so it's up to 166,000, kilowatt hours of energy, so. Moving on to the next slide. This slide is just kind of an overview of each site and how they kind of contribute to that 146,000 number, that I just said. All sites, Lincoln, Morocco, and Lake Village are ground mount. Morocco also has the carport, as you can see outside in that parking lot. And Lincoln is the largest system out of all three. It's produced 60% of the total energy, which is what we expect. And then Lake Village and Morocco have produced the remaining 40%. All this to say, all this presentation just to say that everything's going great. It's what we expect. Everything's running and producing as we expected. It is exciting to see just how much energy is produced in this little 6 weeks. We are excited, very excited to announce, in the coming years, how much energy and money you guys saved doing solar. So, yeah. That is the solar update and our update in general. Do you guys have any last questions or? Yeah.
I got one. Is there any of the schools in the local area that have a solar panel or anything like this?
Yeah, we have quite a few schools. Off the top of my head, I know Delphi has one. I'm not super familiar with the area, but what's that?
Lowell has one.
Okay. Yeah, so we do have a lot of customers that have chosen solar in the past, especially in the past few years. It's really kind of grown. So yeah.
Michigan City has another
Yeah.
big array.
A lot of Illinois too.
Yeah.
So any other questions? Well, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to action items, we have an affidavit for payment number 10.
And thank you, Pat. Yeah, we have affidavit number 2. I know it's, there's 121 affidavit number 10, but it services for $500,968.06, and it's, all, full expenditures. Yes, permission to go ahead and forward that to Regions Bank so that they can pay for phone services.
So we have a request to approve the affidavit for payment of number 10. Do I have a motion? Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5. Thank you. We have a resolution to authorize changes.
Thank you. This deals with the budget. Once the board approves the budget in November, the Department of Local Government will probably towards the end of November work the budget and send out what is called the 1792 notice, which is basically what your budget's going to be, what they're approving. And this resolution gives authority to make changes if we need to for like revenues or expenditures. In the past, they used to allow us to do it, but last year they decided they wanted a resolution from the board for us to do anything like that. So for instance, if, I don't know, 30 kids come in all of a sudden tomorrow and enroll and all of a sudden we have a lot more money, we want that to be in the revenue for next year so that we can budget more money and at least we'll probably need more staff and stuff. So this gives authority for us to make changes to the budget.
We have a request for resolution to authorize changes. Have a motion? Second. Discussion? All those in favor, raise their right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the work.
Thank you.
Okay, item C, school safety plans for 2021-22 school year.
We have copies of the school safety plan for junior, senior high school, Morocco Elementary, Lake Village, and Lincoln. I believe, communicate with the principals, there are minimal changes to their plans. Names, no substantial changes. No substantial changes. I don't think so, there's no changes to
No,
it.
you just took off staff as gone or numbers have changed.
Okay, they wanted to say anything.
It's done.
Okay, we have motion, or, excuse me, request to approve the school season plans for 2021-22. Do we have a motion?
Would you approve?
Is there any discussion? Not all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. D, the school improvement plans for 2021-22.
As we're running out of time, we'll ask the principals just quickly if you want to just give us just a 30-second kind of update about your school improvement plan at all. Any changes?
We've added a lot of our road shows, our CDs that we're all doing, things aligned to our goals. So this is yearly plans, our plans were made throughout last year as well as school improvement teachers as well as this year. So it's just a link of goals and strategies that we've been using and what makes the most impact for our school.
We focus a lot on the data from a lot of NWEA or iLearn, and we make our goals based off that using SMART process.
Yes. I mean, we followed the same data-driven process across the board, and so it's what we typically do. It's a 3-year plan, but it's updated every year. You're using current data to align with your goals and your strategies for implementation to work toward those goals. And that's kind of the 30-second spiel that we probably give every year because that's our united process.
For the high school, if you want to email Rod.
I was on that committee. We updated our goals.
Yeah.
With NWEA
Thanks,
and
Ron.
Tyler, and then obviously attendance is always on there. We'd like to see that goal. What else was there? I think that was about it. Ours was fairly much status quo, just updated the wording and numbers.
Thank you.
And everybody, I think, from it all had teachers, so everyone
Yes.
had teachers' input, 'cause
Ours
that's
did.
important. Okay, and you guys had them listed on there.
Yep.
Great.
We have a recommendation to approve the school improvement plans for 2021-22. Is there a motion?
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Can I ask, how's Lincoln's PTO?
I'm sorry?
How's Lincoln's PTO?
I will be frank, it's still, we've gathered some people that have interest in serving on it, and unfortunately, I've been in and out for health reasons, and so while I've had conversations with many of them, we haven't yet had our first meeting, but we're looking forward to doing that probably for me in the next couple of weeks after upcoming things.
Do you need help with that?
I appreciate that.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
am ready and willing, all right?
Any other questions about the school improvement plans? Not all in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, item E, out-of-district student transfer request for the 2021-22 school year.
We have 2 students who parents are asking for transfers to school corporations, so I would ask that the board approve those 2 students.
Okay, we have a recommendation to approve 2 out-of-district student transfer requests for the school year. A motion? A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Item F, memorandum of understanding for dual credit courses with Ivy Tech.
You have a memorandum of understanding for high school classes that our teachers teach, that our students get ID Tech credit for, so they're listed on the second page. Agribusiness and farm management, animal science, agricultural mechanization, advanced animal science, natural resources management, survey and horticulture, sustainable and alternative energy, landscaping design 1, intro to health careers, and health and wellness for life.
Okay, we have a recommendation to approve the MOU of dual credit courses with ID Tech. Do we have a motion?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Not all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Item G, the ESSER staff stipend adjustment.
Okay, I have a recommendation to adjust upward a stipend for those people who are listed on the recommendation.
Okay, we have a recommendation for adjustment to the upper staff stipend. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not all raise your right hand to approve. Motion carries 5-0. Item H, sale of unused and surplus buses.
So we have 3 buses that are, we have Mr. Clemens here, if you have any questions as well. We have some spare buses that we need to dispose of. We have bus number 2, 68,000 miles, and bus 20, which has 60,000 miles, and bus 30, which has 278,000 miles. Do you want to, anything you would like to add?
The, one white bus, 278,000 miles on it. It, value wise, whatever we get for that's a good choice. We beat these buses, keep them up and everything, but there's a time to get rid of them, and this is the time to get rid of them. So,
Yes.
And I appreciate all the work Mr. Clemens does in making contacts and keeping track of records and making sure that all of our buses are ready for the road and that they're they've been inspected and they're in top shape.
2,000 for one, 550 and 1,000 for another. Did I read that right?
yes, ma'am.
And then where will that money go once we,
Operations. Because that's where the money was. It was, these buses were purchased from the school bus replacement fund, which is now part of, is now considered operations, so that's where the money has to go.
That's where all the transportation comes out.
Yes, all their transportation.
Okay, we have a recommendation for the sale of the unused and surplus buses. Do you have a motion?
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Not all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, item I, North Newton School Corporation reentry plan review.
So our reentry plan is going on the board agenda each month, and it will continue to be on there each month in case the board needs to make a decision if we do something different. With our entry plans, currently masks are recommended but not required. It doesn't speak to, especially when the board members ask, does it matter if we change and go to red? Not necessarily, because it doesn't necessarily mean that it's red in our part. It could be something that happens in the southern part of the county. It just really depends on our particular instances. So once again, we'll keep putting this on the agenda for the board to have discussion. I've shared with you how many students are positive and those kind of things. I'm not asking to make a recommendation to change anything unless the board has other input to provide.
Saying that, if we were to go to red, the health department could make some kind of recommendations also. Correct?
They could, but it's ultimately up to the board to decide. Avenue they'd like to take.
Is there anyone who wants to make a motion for any changes?
As long as everything's the same as last time.
It's not gonna change unless, I just want you to have dialogue in case at some point, we needed to do something different, or at least giving updates each week about how many students are positive or staff members are positive, and try to give the quarantine numbers so you can kind of have an idea of where we're at. If at some point we need to make a decision, but I want to just have that time. Or would you have that time?
Changes, we don't need to go anything except.
Maybe just look to keep it status quo.
Motion to make it status quo.
Keep it as it is.
Okay, I take a motion.
Keep it as is. I'll second.
Okay, a motion and a second to keep the entry plan as status quo. Any other discussion? Not all those in favor, raise their right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 7 is public expression. Guidelines are state your name, only oral presentations, all handouts will go to administration office of the superintendent. Board members who do not respond to necessarily do any comments, only comments deemed reasonable by the board president will be allowed. All comments must be directed toward board members only, and all comments must be 3 minutes or less. Is there anyone? Public expression?
Sharon Harvey. I'm a school bus driver, bus 8. I have a question. When did I become a part-time driver? I was told that the rules changed 5 years ago for the stimulus check that you guys were gonna pass out to the bus drivers. Right now, we don't have enough bus drivers. We're hurting. And it hurts me to find out, I've been driving for 13 years full-time, last time I come to work, to find out that I'm a part-time driver. And I'm not the only one that feels this way. So I'd like to know when I became a part-time driver. Because I don't have a double route. Not everybody can have a double route. Because it's a single route drivers that help with the double routers.
You want to address that? We were talking about the ESSER stipend, is that what you're thinking, Sharon?
Pardon?
The ESSER stipend, is that what you're referring to?
No, finding out that I'm a part-time driver, that's what bothers us. And the stipend thing. That's what started the whole thing. We're bus drivers, we've been bus drivers. I started driving in 1987.
We do appreciate bus drivers. For the sake of the ESSER stipend, it was initially proposed that a dual route would have twice as much of a stipend as the single route drivers, but we're making some adjustment today.
Okay, another thing that I have is the insurance. When I hired on, our benefits, because we got lower pay, was because we have benefits. I collect Medicare. I don't take the insurance, and I know that's my prerogative, but it saves you guys $7,200 a year this time. Last year was $6,400.
And currently, we don't offer any
I
other.
know, I already asked.
Okay.
You don't do supplement insurance.
Right, and we could like do at other districts, like a neighboring district, what they do is they just do a flat rate, and they don't do any benefits, they just pay, I don't know, I think it's $100 and some dollars.
$141.
Yeah, but when you compare that versus what we give plus benefits, actually we pay more if you were to actually do the cost comparison, it just depends.
Well, I just didn't know that, like, after all these years that I'd become a part-time driver, and that bothered me. Because I do drive whenever somebody needs a driver. I do a lot of sports trips, and to find out that it was calculated by the minutes on what we were getting, that really bothered me. But there's a lot of Saturdays that I'm gone from 4:30 in the morning until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. I love my job. And I'll do anything for any other driver. But don't call me a part-time driver.
Thank you.
Nancy Abel. Next month makes it 43 years that I've driven for North Newton. I've also graduated from here, and I've seen a lot of administration come and go. I'm with Sharon on this with the part-time driver. I filled in high school routes. I do not do extra activities like Sharon does. I won't do them. But you know, it's really kind of a slam to bus drivers to be called part-time for, we do extra work. You have no idea what we do in them buses. And yeah, and there's many drivers that are very upset and they couldn't come tonight because a lot of us were gonna be here. My thing is, when we have evaluations, if you get so many points, that's when you get your raise. When do we get our raise? I had asked Mary, and Mary says, well, you gotta check once a year. So why do evaluations on your drivers and you're supposed to go by points, whether you get a raise or not? Nobody takes bus drivers seriously. We are actually professionals. We have to take a CDL physical. We have to go through schooling. We have to do our safety classes. We do our online learning, and it's like a slap in the face. And that's exactly it. And why do we eval if we're not going to get the raise at the beginning of the year? And you know what? We were told that mileage was pennies. So I had talked to David, he's our director of transportation. And I asked him about deadheading miles, which I'd have to explain to you what that is. That would be like from the high school to go back home and from home to the high school. Where Lincoln drivers in Lake Village, it's a good 20 minutes. They do not get paid for their mileage. But we can make extra trips down to the bus barn to get fuel, to get DEF, to get the disinfectant. And we're treated like second class citizens, and we are. Take a survey of just your bus drivers. And that's it. As far as the mileage, there is no law, Indiana code, no law that it's up to the school corporation whether or not you pay deadheading miles. Now, I'm only 2 miles from Lincoln, but I'm thinking about all the years that I drove from the high school back home. Those are a lot of miles. And to get paid that, we were told that, well, it's just pennies. You add up them pennies. At least, what is it, 18 or 20 miles, one trip. That's 40 miles a day on the bus driver's time. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Oh, I do have one other thing that I need to say. When we had to go down to our meeting, or to pick up our buses and our trip sheets, our route sheets, we were told to be down there on Monday before school started. We were there, we had to be there between 8 and 2. We waited to get our buses and that, we got our route sheets and that. And on the way home, we were told to drive our routes backwards, which I did. Then I got home, I spent the next 2 hours calling my kids, tell them what time I'd be picking them up on Friday. We come down to their meeting on Thursday. I marked to get paid for on Monday because it was well over 4 hours that I spent doing school stuff. I only got paid for Thursday because I was informed by Dave and not throwing you under the bus that it wasn't a mandatory meeting. I'm sorry, my time is valuable as your time. I was doing my job. We should have gotten paid for Monday because we had to be down there to get our buses and our routes. And we had to call our kids. And we do it every year. But with everything that's been going on, I feel that we should get paid.
Thank you. Any other public expression? Meeting's adjourned.
I heard.
I just now saw
I might change my mind. It's nice. All right, I'll try to see if I want.